All right, guys, we are on the last lesson for the week. This is lesson 4, which is for 6-9. So make sure you open to that correct page of your SAB journal and keep your homework nearby just in case. And also having a sharpened pencil will be very helpful. I hope you saw the comment in my last YouTube video upload that the leftover problems that I had for you, you could just do the half, just do half of them. And that's going to be kind of the same today. I would really love for you to do these problems. I would really love for you to log into the Zoom call if you feel like you need answer keys to check your work, if your parents or your calculator is not doing the job. And whatever we don't do together today, it's okay to simply do half of the leftovers because it's a lot. So try to bounce around a little bit to do ones, but really this is just important practice that I think is more real life than a lot of the stuff that we do. And so I would love to make sure your number sense caps are on and that you're understanding it, okay? So just like it says at the top, these are just simply multi-step problems that are going to take a little extra practice, or rather just a little extra, yeah, I guess practice is a good word. You want to make sure you're understanding the content, okay? So let's jump right in. I'm going to start you actually with, or I'm going to help you with number 1, which is asking you 4 different questions. So it says, an investor purchased 150 shares of stock at $13.60 per share, and then later sold the shares for $11.92 per, $11.92 per share. It wants you to calculate the profit or the loss of the transaction. Well, this is actually something that if your parents have used the stock market before, they could totally help you with, but I'll give you kind of my layman's version of it since I'm not big in the stock market game. So the very first thing that it's asking you, it's just going to walk you through some clarifying questions to help you solve this problem. So it says, A, what equation can be used to find the amount of money needed to buy the shares? So to first buy the shares, you needed to have 150 of them at $13.60 each. So that's simply just 150 times $13.60, and that will tell you the amount. So we'll go ahead and solve that. I'm going to write 13.6 down because this 0 in 13.6 doesn't actually matter. And then I'm also going to then multiply this times 150. Okay? So 0 times 6 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. Place value holder. And now I'm going to do 5 times 6, which is 30. So I'll bring down my 0, carry the 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18. So bring down the 8, carry your 1. And then 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Now I'm going to cross these out first before I now write down 2 place value holders. And then it's just going to be 1 times 6, 1 times 3, and 1 times 1. And now when you add those all up, you are going to get 204, well, 20,400, but you do need to remember that you had one number after the decimal point, which is right there. So it says, what equation can be used to find the amount of money? That's our equation. Oh, I got ahead of myself. What's new? Okay, well, that's your equation. That will help us later. So I'm going to keep that around here, okay? Yeah, we're going to need that later. Sorry, I was just checking ahead. Okay, B says, what equation can be used to find the amount of money received for selling the shares? So same as before, you still have 150 shares, but this time you're going to sell them at $11.92 each. So this is one where, again, I'm going to go ahead and solve because you are eventually going to need this, and we're just going to make our life a little easier later on. Ignore the decimal point till the very end. This time I'm going to teach you or remind you of a trick. If you have a 0 right here, that's the same as a place value holder, so you can now skip that whole section. And I'm going to start with 5. So 5 times 2 is 10, so bring down the 0, carry the 1. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 1 is 46. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. And 5 times 1 is 5, plus nothing is 5. I need 2 place value holders this time. And now I'm going to do 1 times 2, 9, 1, and 1. So that's going to be 1 times 2, 9, 1, and 1. And now we get to add those 2 all up. And that ends up being... Nope, don't need to add that. So 178,800. However, I had 2 numbers after the decimal point this time. So that's going to end up being 1,788. So like I said, I'm going to leave these 2 numbers right here. They're going to help us out in a minute. So it says, does the transaction represent a profit or a loss, and then why? So we have to look to see what happened. We bought them at $13.60, and we are now selling them at $11.92. So this number is smaller because of that. That means that I am going to make a loss. That means that I am not going to have as much money, and we can just say that as $13.60 is greater than $11.92. Okay? And then it says what equation can be used to calculate the loss. Solve your equation to calculate the loss. So that's where we've already done a ton of the work, which is super awesome. But we still need to write our equation. So our equation ends up being, we have to do 150 times 13.60. And then we're going to subtract the other part. 150 times 1192. And then that all together is going to tell us our, I'm going to put an L because that'll stand for our loss, unfortunately. So now that I've already done all that work, I just need to simply subtract them from each other. So this is going to be 2,040 minus 1,788. Can't do 0 minus 8, so I'm going to borrow. So this becomes 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Again, I can't borrow from here, so I'm going to make that a 1. First, this will become a 10 before I can borrow from it to make it a 9. 13 minus 8 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. So that means that my loss is $252 down the drain. Very sad and depressing. Okay, so number 2, it says a soccer team is playing 10 games each season. What? A soccer team plays 10 games each season. Last season, the team scored an average of 2.5 goals per game in its first 6 games. And 3.25 goals per game in its final 4 games. So how many goals were scored by the team last season? So let's try to get a equation going here. Let's kind of look to see what it is we're doing. It looks to me like we're going to have to do 2 problems, but then sort of add them together. So let's walk ourselves through the problem one more time. It says a soccer team played 10 games each season, and last season the team scored an average of 2.5 goals for its first 6 games. So that's going to be, they scored an average of 2.5 goals in 6 games. And then it says they scored 3.25 goals as an average in their last 4 games. And then they want to know how many teams or how many goals were scored altogether. So it looks like we're going to add those 2 problems together. So let's go ahead and solve them. Let's do 2.5 times 6 first. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. And I had 1 number after the decimal point. So that means they scored altogether 15 goals in their first 6 games on average. And then now I'm going to do 3.25 times 4 for their last 4 games. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. And then 4 times 3 is 12. And 12 plus 1 is 13. And there's 2 numbers after the decimal point, so I need 2 numbers after the decimal point. So if we were to wrap this all up in an equation over here, that would be 2.5 times 6 plus 3.25 times 4 equals, let's add those 2 together, 28 goals. Trying to decide. I think I would really love it if you did 3 and 4 on your own right now, just as a quick check. And I'm just going to write down the answers to those 2. Let me pop ahead. I think I actually am going to change my mind. Sorry. So scratch that. 3 and 4 are definitely something you can go back and do on your own. But I'm going to come over here to number 5 because I found number 5 to be a little bit tricky, just because you got to understand exactly what it is they're asking you to do here. So this is a school bookstore problem again. And Dakota is purchasing something, so I don't know why. I'm just going to read it. Sorry. At the school bookstore, Dakota purchased a notebook for $3.75. She purchased 6 pencils for 20 cents each, and then purchased 2 pens for $1.19 each. And it says, by what amount A was the cost of the pens greater than the cost of the pencils? So I have a lot going on here. I actually don't even need to know the notebook. The notebook is not included in this problem that I'm trying to solve, so I'm going to totally get rid of it. But what I do need to figure out is it wants to know basically what's the difference between these two prices. So I need to figure out, it says, by what amount A was cost of the pens greater than the cost of the pencils. So let's start with the pens first. That's basically going to be 2 times $1.19 first. And I want to find the difference between those two, which is subtraction. And so then I'm also going to find 6 times 20 cents each. And that will then tell me what they labeled as A. Okay, so let's do $1.19 times 2 over here. And we're also going to do 20 cents times 6, although you probably could have done that one in your head. 2 times 9 is 18, so I'll bring down my 8, carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. And then 2 times 1 is 2. So that would be $2.38 for my pens. And then 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 2 is 12. But there's 2 numbers after the decimal point, so I need 2 numbers after the decimal point there. So the difference between my prices now, I'm going to subtract them from each other. 8 minus 0 is 8, 3 minus 2 is 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1, and you bring that decimal point straight down. So A here is going to equal $1.18. So again, not necessarily hard problems to solve, but it is very tricky to figure out what it is exactly that they want you to do there. So try 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's kind of what I want you to do today. I'm going to amend this just a little bit. What I would really love for you to do is this SAB option. I think that left you with about 6 or so problems, if I'm remembering correctly. So you should only have about 6 problems to solve, but I'm going to cut you a deal. I'm going to let you try to just solve 4 of them. So see if you can go find 4 that seem doable. Again, double check your work with the calculator if you want to make sure you've done it correctly. You can always ask your parents, see if they can work through those problems with you if they're not busy. But finally, what I would really love for you to do is just log into a Zoom call. You can tell me the answer. If you got it right, awesome. If you got it wrong, I'll do it with you real quick. So those are 1 to 2, Monday through Thursday. Check in if you need some help, okay? So try out those problems. IXL is obviously fine, and homework and remembering is also fine, but I would really like for you to dive into that SAB pages, okay? Good luck, guys. I can't wait to hear from you, see how it went.